Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. A few videos coming up now on the Shovelhead. This first one was unexpected. So it's coming up first, so I'd better explain why. But before I do, if you're a regular, welcome back. If you're not a regular, then please subscribe. It helps the channel, it costs nothing. It will help to ensure that these videos keep coming out. So please, if you can, subscribe. Right, the old shovel, my Harley, has been sitting unused now for 4 months due to the large amounts of snow and freezing cold weather we get around here. So I decided there were a few jobs I want to do before spring. Now, this wasn't one of them. So I went to start her up. The battery had been kept on charge on a tender. Went to fire her up, she's a bit reluctant. So I cleaned the plugs, popped the air filter off, had a mooch round, got her going, no big dramas. Locked up, came in the following morning. As soon as I opened the garage door, I thought, wow, overwhelming stench of petrol. There's cardboard underneath her at the minute, because that's the next job, which you'll see later on in another video. So I had a quick look in the fuel filter, which was full, which suggested to me that there was a tap problem, because had it just been the needle valve and the tap was sealing properly, it would drain the fuel filter. So I pulled the fuel pipe off, and the tap was indeed dripping, but not hugely. It was regular, but not a massive gush. And given the low head that there is on the petrol tanks on a Harley compared to where the carb is, and the small amount of fuel that's in the bike, as well as a faulty tap, I am 99% certain that we've got a problem with the float needle valve, which may just be a bit of dirt because it had been sitting for a while. It could be anything, I don't know. But either way, I'm going to have to pull the carb off and have a look. I have a new tap on the way because the type that's on this, I can't see how it comes apart, and I can't find any spare parts for it even if it did. So I have a reproduction 73 tap on the way. I won't show you fitting that because it is literally unscrew and screw back in again. But I will show you the carb because it's an S&S. I don't know which model yet until I get it off. I've never worked on an S&S. I've never worked on a Harley much, as you know. There are a few more videos about it if you look in the playlist, but basically I've not done a lot on Harleys. So it's going to be interesting to find out how it all comes apart. So I'm going to disconnect the battery and then I'll bring you back closer up and we'll look at the carb itself. Right, there's our carb. It's our air filter cover, stamped up S&S Super, held on by 3 screws, or at least it should be. But I'm missing one, so presumably vibration has meant it's gone AWOL. Luckily you can buy them here in the UK on eBay for about £3 in stainless. So I'll treat myself to a new set. Now, when I was trying to get the bike going, I did actually have this off. Put it back on again, see? Now, I was checking the air filter, which is okay. Bit grubby, but you know, I'm not panicking about it. I'll reuse it. And then in the carb itself, there's a small jet which works off the throttle to provide an accelerator pump function, and it wasn't working. Nothing was coming out. Now that could be adjustment, it could be the diaphragm. I really honestly don't know yet, so that's another thing we're going to have to find out about as we get going. So now I have to work out how this thing is attached to the bike. So there's a nut and bolt through to a stay there, and then there are 3 Allen heads here holding the air filter backing plate onto the carb itself. Right, I've undone the nut on the back of that, and I've loosened these Allen head bolts, which are Loctited. presumably to stop them getting swallowed and undoing. So, hopefully that'll come off. Oh, what was that? Oh, spacer. Right, okay. So, that was spaced, so screwing nut was spaced to the carb. And then there's a gasket, which is missing. Half, well, it's half of it's missing, which won't help. Right, so there are, I can't show you this very well sadly, there's only one cable, despite the fact there are two cable holders, presumably because this is an old bike. And then how does the carb attach? Right, okay. So the carb is attached and accessed from the other side. So I will undo those from the other side and bring you back. I'll also undo the fuel petrol pipe, which is held on there. Right, back in 1 second. I've undone the two Allen headed bolts that secure the carb to the manifold. And the carb dropped down before I even got a chance to get around to this side to have a look. So that just leaves our cable, which should just undo like that, which it does. Oh, a spacer, tough null type spacer, heat insulator presumably, with a rubber O-ring in it. Interesting. I'm assuming. Oh no, it's a rubber O-ring in the carb as well. Right, okay. So there's our carb off. Pretty quick, really. Oh, pouring out fluid. Right, let's get it on the bench and have a look. It is an S&S Super E, so at least I know what we're dealing with now. And the first thing I've noticed is that screw there controls the movement of that rod for the accelerator pump. And there is no movement on accelerator, no noticeable movement on the accelerator pump before it disengages. Minimal. And that's all the way home. So it looks like somebody's deliberately disabled the accelerator pump. Why they would do that, I don't know. Fuel consumption perhaps? I don't honestly know. Right, anyway. Let's have a look. So, let's get rid of the overflow pipe. We've got 1, 2, 3, and a long one, 4, to get the float bowl off. There's a float bowl drain as well, so we'll take that off and have a look. And see what we can see. Oh, notchy. Right, drain plug with O-ring. And a jet underneath. Right, let's take the bowl off. So I'll get my screwdriver. Just crack them all before I undo them completely. Yep, that one. Right. It's got a long one. difficult to do this without getting in your way sometimes, so apologies if my hand strays in front of you from time to time. It's, seem to tap that gently with. Now surely that should come off. And it does. Right, let's leave that for a second. There's our load. Now then, I was expecting to see an O-ring there, and I can't see one. So before we go any further, let's take our gasket off. Is that going to come? Yep. I'm trying to be careful with all of this because I don't have any replacement parts at all. So, now then. Right, it doesn't want to come past that jet or tube, so we shall remove that tube. Take the gasket off. And there's our O-ring, which should have been on there. Now, has that fallen off while we're stripping it? I don't know. I suspect not. Okay. So all of these are going to need blowing out and cleaning. It's actually fairly clean in there. So that's our rod for our accelerator pump. Rubber boot above it, which is complete. So I won't mess with that. Now then. Okay, so that's the accelerator pump tube, I'm assuming. And that O-ring seals it into that hole there when it's all together, which makes sense. So that'll all need blowing out. So, let's see if we can get this out. Now, that's very tight. Okay, let's see if we can get that out first, which is our main stack. Can we get a socket on it? Yes, we can. Ugh. Dirty, dirty, dirty. Don't know if you can see that, but there's loads of old crud on there. It is clear though. It's clear all the way through. So something else needs careful cleaning. And there's another jet down there. No, that's super tight as well. Okay. Given there were no particular running issues, I'm not going to try and get them out. I'm just going to clean everything up, blow them through, make sure they're clear, blow through all the tubes. because it doesn't really matter unless they're worn. I'm not suspecting that they're worn. So then there is a rubber O-ring around the flange, which is above the level of the flange. That's okay. I'll probably do another go. And then we have our throttle screw. I suppose we better look at that, hadn't we? So let's take it down to bottom and see how many turns out it is. Half, 1, 1 1/4, yeah. Right, so let's pull it out and see how clean that is. Again, dirty. Dirty but undamaged. So something else to be cleaned. And then the only other thing up here really is our enrichment device. I'll take that off so I can clean through that passage. Oh, tight, tight, tight. Wow, that's tight. I got it though. So we have a nut, a spring, and a plunger, which is also dirty. So it needed a good clean up, this carb anyway. The rest of it seems clean though. So that can go to one side to get cleaned out and blown through. Which brings us back to our float, which seems free. So there's a pivot on a pin, the pin's held in by that screw, so let's pop that out. And lift it out of the carb. Oh. Okay. That doesn't want to come. There we go. Carb bowl is quite clean, really. All things considered. So a float pivot pin, a float, which I will check to see if it is actually floating, and our needle. Right, I will swap you to macro mode in a minute and we'll look at all of these individually, because that's not good. And then the needle seats in there, which is attached to that. Let me try and find a spanner that will fit that. Yep. It's awkward, isn't it? There we go. Another O-ring around the bottom of that. And the seat doesn't look that bad. Okay. So really, it's whether our diaphragm's any good in here. So we've come this far, so we might as well have a look, mightn't we? So the remaining 2 screws, now this should be sprung loaded, I would have thought, given it's got a diaphragm in it, but we shall find out. Let's put something under there so you can see that a bit better. Oh, mind you, this, if it's sprung loaded, it can fly everywhere. Right. Right. Well, there's our diaphragm. There's a spring underneath. Now the diaphragm actually looks complete. Yep, it is. So, our accelerator pump woes then would appear to be a direct result of somebody having disabled it rather than a defect. And then we have two rubber seals. Which again are okay. Yeah, they're complete. And then a spring. Ah! Is it in there? Right. I think I've worked out why somebody's turned off the accelerator pump diaphragm. Because in that hole there with the spring, there should be a ball. There should be a ball bearing on top of that spring, which is pressed down by that, and it isn't there. There is no ball bearing. So somebody's had this apart before, put it back together without the ball bearing, and then presumably it's just, every time you squirt the throttle, it presumably spewed far too much fuel in, so they've disabled the accelerator pump. Right, okay, that then is as far as we can go today. So I'll get the macro lens on and show you some of these parts individually, and then I'll have to order a rebuild kit because I need that ball bearing, which is irritating. Right, now I don't know how well you're going to see this, as magnified as I can get it really, but if you look just at the end of the pointer, there's a worn ring, which is probably just enough to stop things seating properly. You can't really feel it, but it's shiny and worn there. So I need a new one of those for a start. So while we're at it, so a quick look at the there's our idle screw. Now again, it's a little bit polished just there and dirty there, but it's not ridged, so I think once that's cleaned that should be okay, and the end of it isn't bent or squashed, which quite often happens with the mixture screws. So that's okay, so that's reusable, which is good. Our pivot pin two small witness marks, one there, one there. Again, I'm not sure if you'll see that, it is very faint. One there, but it's not ridged, it's just dirty. So again, that's reusable. Our accelerator pump rod is just dirty, so that's going to be reused. What else was there? Oh yes, our mixture enrichment device. I think that's what they call it anyway. The tip has got a witness mark there, but again, you can't feel it, and the sides are just a bit dirty. So they will polish up. And then we have our seat. Can you see in there? That's where the needle sits, down in there. And that is okay, and the sides are okay. Let me refocus you. Right, it's really, really hard to get this lit and focused. But basically, this circular piece here is where the needle rides. There are 3 ridges on the needle valve. So looking, given they're shiny, again, it's very hard to show you this lighting wise. You can just see they're very slightly shiny, and that's because they will move about slightly in there. But there is no, if you look through the gap, the slot to the far side of the unit, there is no scoring or anything. So again, once cleaned, that is eminently reusable. Our diaphragm, which is now dried out, is complete, undamaged. So that's reusable, although I'm not sure what you get in the kit. I'm hoping to be able to get the ball without buying a whole kit, but I might have to buy an entire kit, which is a pain in the butt. But anyway, we shall see what we get. Our little O-rings are reusable, they're slightly marked, but again, I would imagine I get them in the kit anyway, so I don't have to worry about them. And then our jet stacks just need cleaning. Get rid of all that crud blown through, make sure they're all okay, and the body will be the same. So that's as far as we can go today. So there we are, there's all the bits. I'm now going to clean them and then order up the stuff I need. So I'll bring you back when those arrive, and we'll put it all back together. So until then, keep safe. Try and live as full a life as you can in the current circumstances. Please subscribe. Please hit the like button if you've enjoyed it. Tell your friends, blah, 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 blah. And I hope to see you again back at the garage soon. So thanks very much for watching.